check the link now. Do confirm if it is fine. Audio and video. Do confirm if the audio and video is fine. I've seen a couple of you here. Okay, looks like it is fine, and good to see you back. So I'll continue with passage 5 now. Thank you, Naresh. I'll continue with passage 5 now. And there was a little disturbance at passage 4. So if there were any questions related to that, what I'll do is towards the end of the lecture, towards the end of the session, we can discuss those questions again. Once again, sorry for the inconvenience that was there because of the internet fluctuations I had. Hopefully, it will be a smooth one from now on. So I am going to continue with the passage 5 now, right? So passage 5 is about a situation in Myanmar where the control is taken over by the generals now. So earlier it was generals only from the beginning, and they had a little bit of a democratic stint in between, and then again a coup that was there. So the entire passage focused on those lines. Okay. So 3 weeks after they took control of Myanmar by toppling its democratically elected government, the country's generals are struggling to retain grip on power in face of growing pro-democracy mass protests. So they tried to take power, control, but there's a lot of protests happening there. The military shared power with the NLE leader for 5 years, but they had a coup there in February, and before the next election, a new government is formed. The military, which controlled Myanmar through direct rule for almost 50 years since independence from Britain in 48, has now deployed the familiar repressive tactics to quell opposition to the latest coup. It has detained Ms. Suki and Wen and several other leaders, suspended the internet, blocked social networks, etc. But protests have only grown by day. On Saturday, 2 unarmed protesters were killed by security forces, and even police and deployment of security personnel is there. Across the main cities did not stop. Whenever you have grammar, I think fill in the blank like this is possible, or you might have error correction statements. Let's see the options, but meanwhile, based on the flow, I think did not make sense there. So first paragraph is more about what the Myanmar generals are doing and how the other people were put under arrest kind of scenario. There are a lot of crackdowns, that's what we are talking about in the second paragraph. And we also have 1988 scenario mentioned, 2007 scenario here. And then later they had a new constitution in 2008, which led to the formation of a government in 2015. Factual information is given out here. And currently, again, the military is trying to take power. So, but they were wrong to expect the Myanmarese people who experienced at least limited liberties and democracy for 5 years after decades of repressive leadership to allow them to consolidate power easily. The protesters have called for civil disobedience, stoppage of works, etc. The strike has affected banking system, and already the country is hit by COVID, is struggling a lot. Military is facing international sanctions and condemnation. There is no easy way out for the general from this. The general should realize that years of repression have not killed Myanmar's aspirations for democracy. They shouldn't repeat 88 and 07, and they should stand down. So here, the suggestion the author is giving is that the military government should step down and let the democratic government take over. And there's a lot of international sanctions and condemnations also. And it's not easy for a country in this global world to lead freely with international unhappiness also. Right? So let's move on to the questions here. Okay. Which of the following is the synonym to the word compromise? That's the word. Compromise is basically adjusting to it. And answer for this is A, accommodate. Accommodate is not just technically accommodation. The moment we come across that word, the first thing that we go and think is accommodation, some kind of a house or something like that. Accommodate is also to allow something to be included or adjusted to. So definitely A looks fine. Concord is more like agreement. Congruence is like congruency triangles and mathematics, you might have studied it. Transgress is something that you don't accept. So these words don't come across uh, properly here. A is the best possible thing here. Let's move on to the next one. Which of the following is true with regards to the passage? The global leaders support the move of politics. We cannot say that because there's condemnation from across. Economy has taken a nosedive due to the coup. There is COVID and that affected, and then the banking sector also is affected. So the next one is current protest is being led by the Buddhist monks. We have 1988 and 2007, and 2007 we have information um, there related to the Buddhist monks and all, but not the current one. Current one is more from the people angle because they have experienced the democratic rule, and hence it's the normal people because they got a taste of free and better governance. They don't want to go back to the military rule. So here in all these options A, B, C, none of the above will be the best possible answers for us. Okay. Next one. Which of the following would the author most likely agree to? International leaders should intervene in the matter. There's already condemnation, so that is something that I cannot take it as a main answer here. The Myanmar military must move fast to end political crisis. That is what is clearly given in the last line. For many such questions so far, we've always seen last line kind of gives a hint to us about which direction and what is the ultimate opinion that the author is trying to showcase there. So B looks like one. The political crisis is due to inefficient leadership of Aung San Suu Kyi. No, that's not what we say. She is under democratic rule and she struggled and finally formed. So that's not what we have here. People have been daunted by the crackdown strategy of the military. They're not. They're fighting back. So definitely that can't be the answer. So here B looks like a possible suitable answer here. Okay, so pretty much everything is in the passage, nothing to worry. We can always connect the line there. Which of the following is a suitable word to replace one in the passage? We discussed that already. Going with the flow, it was did, the past tense word that we could go. It's in the first paragraph itself where we had that thing. Okay, across the main cities did not stop millions from joining a general strike. Easy question, easy option, not at all difficult. Which of the following is not true with respect to the passage? Myanmar has always been democratic. That's definitely not true. Military has been instrumental in getting the country free from the rule. Well, they ruled since independence, but there's no line that they themselves are the only responsible people to get independence. We cannot say that. Constitution paved way for current elected government to come in from long time. I mean, like actually from 2008 to 2015 to current scenario. So here you have a different answer choice. You could go with A as the best possible answer. Okay. Any questions there? '20 and 21. Okay, as I said, 20 and 21, I'll come towards the end, guys. Okay. Passage 4, I'll discuss once again, Prasoon, towards the end of all the entire content. Okay, don't worry. Okay, so let's have the answers here. 22A, 23D, 24B, 25C, 26A. Okay. I hope that's clear and fine. Any questions on passage 5? Any questions on passage 5? Okay, assuming there are none, let's move on to the passage 6. A good one, a descriptive one, and a nice one actually. We do have a couple of difficult questions also. A little attention is needed and careful reading is needed. Even then, my only friends were made of paper and ink. So basically, you're talking about books as friends. At school, I had learned to read and write long before the other children. So he's ahead of reading and writing. Words and mystery of their hidden signs fascinated me, and I saw in them a key with which I could unlock a boundless world, a safe haven from that home, those streets, and those troubled days in which even I could sense that only a limited fortune awaited me. My father didn't like to see books in the house. I used to hide my books under the mattress and wait for him to go for or fall asleep so that I could read. Once he caught me reading at night and flew into a rage. He tore the book from my hands and flung it out of the window. His father was not very much happy with his book reading habit. That's what we can guess from here. If I catch you wasting electricity again reading all this nonsense, you'll be sorry. He's not happy with wastage of electricity. So that's kind of an idea that they try to give about the father. My father was not miser. Immediately, if you see, it was a negative story or a negative experience about his father that the author is trying to give here. But later, he's trying to explain it further. So they're trying to simplify it or neutralize the opinion that is created in our minds. My father was not a miser, and despite the hardships we suffered, whenever he could, he gave me a few coins so that I could buy myself some treats like other children. When I had collected 4 or 5 reals, I would secretly rush out to buy myself a book. So basically, we can understand that his father is not a miser, but financially, or they are having difficult scenarios. So that's the reason for his behavior. But even in such difficult scenarios, whenever they could, he could give some coins for him and he could buy treats, etc. So it's not like the father is pretty much a bad guy kind of thing. It's a situation that is bad, that's it. Next one. My favorite place in the whole city was Semper and Sons bookshop on called Santa Ana. The bookseller would let me sit on a chair in a corner and read any book. And I like to my heart's content. I like to my heart's content read any book. He hardly ever allowed me to pay for the books he placed in my hands, but when he wasn't looking, I would leave the coins I had managed to collect on the counter before I left. It was only small change. If I had to buy a book with that pittance, I would probably have been able to afford only a booklet of cigarette papers. When it was time for me to leave, I would do so dragging my feet, a weight on my soul. He was not happy leaving the bookstore. If it had been up to me, I would have stayed there forever. This kind of tells us that the boy is very much in love of the books, and the bookstore guy also helped him actually to sit there and study. So that also establishes the relation between the two. One Christmas, Semper gave me the best gift I've ever received. It was an old volume, read and experienced to the full. Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. I read on the cover. A friend of yours, a lifelong friend, and from now on, he's your friend too. That afternoon, I took my new friend home, hidden under my clothes so that my father wouldn't see it. I read Great Expectations about 9 times, partly because I had no other book at hand, partly because I didn't think there could be a better one in the whole world, and I was beginning to suspect that Mr. Dickens had written in it just for me. Soon I was convinced that I didn't want to do anything else in life but learn to do what Mr. Dickens had done. So this kind of again gives the closing lines always, as I said, they try to give us what is going to come up next. So we cannot ignore them, pay attention there. Soon I was convinced that I didn't want to do anything else in life but learn to do what Dickens had done. What has Dickens done? Dickens has written a book and he probably wants to write a book too, right? So that's an interesting questions paragraph that we have here. Let's move on to the questions. Over the passage, the main focus, a shift from a general discussion of narrator's love of reading to a portrayal of an influential incident. So initially we started off with his love of reading, and then there's an incident or a situation between the bookstore guy and the person, the speaker, the little boy reading books. And that kind of had an influence. He was going to take up writing from there. But let's park this situation and move on to the other options. Depiction of narrator's father to an examination of author with whom the narrator becomes enchanted. Father scenario was just an explanation there, guys, and it's not that the author is examined. I mean, Dickens is examined here. No, he later gets to know Dickens, so we cannot consider that. Symbolic representation of a skill. Here, he is familiar with reading and writing, but we didn't talk a lot about how his skill is represented. Tale about the hardships of narrator's childhood. It was just a mention there about in one line, but that is not the whole thing. How he struggled, like he sold newspapers and made some money out of it. He rushed to school, studied in a government school, struggled for food. Nothing like that is discussed here. So we cannot say too much on the hardships aspect. So preferably the best possible answer for the 27th question here is A. Okay, a general discussion of his love of reading, and in order to emphasize that only that concept itself, he gave the example of his father, so that actually corroborates or strengthens it further. And then the influential incident is the book that he got, and which in turn led him to take up learning the concept of writing like Dickens. Got it? So 27th A is the best possible answer. With which of the following statements about his father would the narrator most likely agree? Okay, so this is a question again. We have an explanation about the kid's father and all. Let's see. He lacked affection for the narrator. No, we can't say that because there's some kind of money that was definitely given. He disliked any unnecessary use of money. Maybe. Let's see. He would not have approved of Semper's gift. That also looks like a possible one. He objected to the writings of Charles Dickens. There's nothing specific about liking one person or another person. Okay, so these two options are happily gone. Now I have to make a decision between B and C. Now, basically, unnecessary use of money, you have connected that in the story with regards to books. Okay, father did give him some money whenever possible so that he can buy some treats. Okay, it's not that the kids were not given any money to have some fun also. So going by that line, I think between B and C, C would be the most possible answer because he hid the book from the father. It's the book that the father feels is unnecessary. It's not the treats, because the line there trying to say that my father is not miser, my father gave some treats for me whenever possible, I could get some coins, etc. All those lines kind of say that it's not about wastage of money or only. It's basically he is not so much for books as a investment or a thing to be used. Okay, so it's a tough choice between those two options for the 28 one, and C will be the best possible answer. Okay, whenever we are stuck with any such questions, always have an A minus B approach. Dissect those lines and see in which direction it is going and connect with the passage, and then you can do it better. Hopefully you got that, guys. Okay, let's move on to the next one, 29th question, right? It can reasonably be inferred from the passage the main reason that the narrator considered Great Expectation to be the best gift he ever received is because, let's say why the book is a great gift for him. Reading the book convinced him that he wanted to be a writer, maybe learn what Dickens did. He had only ever been given sweets and snacks as gifts in the past. This is not something that we have discussed anywhere in the passage. Gift meant that Semper held him in high regard. It's about gift that he allowed him. It's not about regard. And what does a kid think about high regard and all? Semper was a friend of book's author. Well, book is treated as a friend, not the book's author. So that word we have to see not just like a literal exact meaning of the word, but in context how it is used. That's one trap that we could expect from this passage. So going by that, 29, the best possible one is A. Again, the last lines of the passage, I would like to do what Dickens has done. That gives us a hint that A is an answer. Okay. Narrator indicates that he pays Semper. Less than Semper expect him to pay for nothing because Semper won't take his money. The money he makes selling sweets to other children, much less for the books than they are worth. Now, if you look at it, B and C are happily gone because Semper won't take this money. He leaves it there. The money he makes selling sweets, this is not discussed, his father gave it. Less than Semper expects him to pay for the books, much less for the books than they are worth. Semper actually doesn't expect him to pay money for the books. So here, 30th one, this question, the best possible answer for us is D. Okay, D is the best possible answer. Okay, so yeah, that's what it is. Easy question. It is little about interpretation, nothing to worry. Okay, if you have any doubts about any of these question types, keep chatting, guys, and I'll look at it once the entire passage is over. The word friend is used twice in the paragraph, a lifelong friend, and from now on, he is your friend too. Underline the importance of narrator's connection to Semper. Stress how friendships helped narrator deal with his difficult home situation. Emphasize the emotional connection Semper feels to reading. Implies narrator's sentiments caused him to make an irrational decision. What do you think here we have as an answer? Here we just have a word about a friend, and the author thinks books are his friend, and Semper also thinks books are his friend, and they both together agree it's going to be a lifelong friend for you too, or he's going to be a friend for future. Okay, so this is all about a connection with regards to reading. It's not about anything else. So let's look at the options. Once again, underline the importance of connection to Semper. It's not about the relation to Semper alone. It's about a relation to reading. Stress friendships and how he dealt with it in home situation. His home situation is just an instance for us. It's just a trap to distract us, but it's not that the kid had too many friends and other things. Books were his friends from the beginning. That's what we have in the starting line actually, or the first line that we have there. So we cannot go with that option. Semper's connection to reading and his emotional connection. So he treats books as friends. That's what we could take it here. Irrational decision, no. So this is also wrong. The best possible answer for the 31 is C. When you have a sentence or a phrase like this, passage will give you some kind of idea, but it is options that you need to carefully look at it. And whenever you feel the wording and language is little tricky, always have patience. Pause, look at it, connect the parts that you can actually dissect from the passage and eliminate and move on. Which statement best characterizes the relationship between Semper and Charles Dickens? Semper models his own writing after Dickens' styles. Semper actually has a bookstore, and it's not about his writing that we discussed. So this cannot be my answer. Semper is an admirer of Dickens' work, friend and lifelong friend. Okay, can be an answer. Semper feels a personal connection to the details of the biography. Now, biography is something that's a word that we have here. We do have a statement where the author said, I read it multiple times, but cannot say it's a personal connection to the details or the biography word. Either words will actually put this as a no. Semper considers himself to be Dickens' most appreciative reader. Now, if you look at B and A, that's a tough choice to be made here. One, this question is asking us how you would characterize Semper and Charles Dickens' relation. So we can say that he loves those books, and that's why he recommended that book to someone else, and hence he is an avid admirer, right? Now, the line that he considers himself to be the most appreciative reader is this a superlative, it's a degree of comparison that we are coming here, and it's like Semper versus someone else. Like the fan club head or multiple things like that. None of those ideas come from the passage. So between B and D, I would prefer B here. A tough choice actually, but the one reason is comparative analysis with other people is not discussed, and hence I might not look into that angle at this point of time. That's the only reason. Otherwise, they are pretty much close answers. So anybody who marked between B and D, you're almost there, guys. It's just the finishing that you need to do. And anyone between A and C, if you mark, then you're out of sync with the passage. You have to work a lot and go a long way. So let me give the answers here. 27th A and 28th C, 29A, 30D, 31C and 32B. ठीक है? Okay, clear. So let me go back to 20, 21, 25 questions if you guys are fine with this. Prasoon, I understand you're following. If you're fine with the passage 5 and 6, please confirm so that I can proceed to the 20th questions. Okay. So yeah, so he needs 20 and 21 questions then. So I'm moving on to 20 and 21, which was passage 4. We missed it because of the internet issue. Sorry about that once again. So let's go back. Okay. I'm assuming I'm fine with audio and video now. Okay, so 20th question is which of the following is not true as per the passage, right? Which of the following is not true as per the passage. So basically, whenever you encounter such situation, check the data, compare with the passage and move on. The select committee is bound to make a report within fixed time. Okay, the select committee is bound to make a report within fixed time. They have a timeline and they have to adhere to that. If there isn't a timeline, then it has to be 3 months timeline. And if the 3 months timeline is not fixed, then they can have a motion. Deadline can be altered by the House on a motion board by a member. Second paragraph, first 3 or 4 lines, we have that data. Okay, so definitely A seems to be a true statement. Deadline for report in no case whatsoever can be set beyond 3 months. Well, after 3 months, if the deadline is not met, they can write to the committee. So I just read that line again in the first few lines of the second paragraph. So B is the answer. B looks like an answer. In case there is no deliberation on deadline, it will be 3 months. That's clear again. If there's no deadlines mentioned, it should be 3 months. So that's given in the passage. Members are free to disagree from the final report submitted. Yes, they are allowed to express their dissent. So that is also there in the passage. So first 5-6 lines there in the second passage, second part of the passage or second paragraph will give you information that you need for this particular question. So it's clear cut B as an answer. Okay? That's 20. Next one is 21. Which of the following best describes the tone of the passage? If you look at it, suspenseful and humorous are irrelevant. Laudatory is more to do with appreciating something. Something is some role has come and that's very great and good, etc. You go for laudatory. But no, in the given scenario, it's more about the rule that we have and how it is implemented, what are the different cases related to that, etc. It's pure information, and that's what we call technical. Now, I don't want you to take the word technical in literal terms like something to do with science and technology. In interviews and all, we usually say HR round and technical round. Technical round is more like the fundamental conceptual round or things like that. So it's informatory here. The techniques of legal system you could call, or techniques of Rajya Sabha rules you could call. So the procedures and process, etc. So that's why A looks like an answer. Okay, and B, D, C, all three of them are happily eliminated options, guys. So that's one reason we go with 21 as A. Okay, Prasoon, I hope that's clear with the 20th and 21st question. And 25th, as I went with the flow of the passage, you need tense there, tense correction that you need there. You have the options will, shall, did, and would. And if you go and fit in with the content in the passage, did seems to be the best possible one. Okay, guys, I hope that's clear with the questions that we discussed so far today. So we had overall 6 passages that we, 5 to 6 passages that we had. Different variety of questions were encountered. So the takeaway first one with the title-based passage question. The title, always look at the complete information of the passage. Keep the scope in mind. Have something in mind and go to the options and eliminate the incorrect ones. That's one thing that you could do. Okay, and we also had some discussion about grammar questions, right? Whenever you have grammar questions, choose those answers which are based on standard grammar rules first. And That's the first thing. You can catch your errors like that. But later, whenever you have a scenario where there's all the above, have patience to apply a little deeper concepts of grammars to avoid mistakes. But revise the concepts. You have around 20-25 days now. So revise the concepts of grammar and you can happily and easily do it. Grammar is pretty easy. Vocabulary, grammar. Contextual vocabulary rules, revise them. You have a couple of questions here and they are also something easy to do. And whenever you have lines related to the passage, always look at information from the passage that will give you some kind of clue what the answer has to be. Okay, so yes, finally, we've successfully completed our session today and hopefully everybody followed. And if you have any further questions or anything, you could always see any contextual vocabulary, guys. That one thing that I want to say, words whenever you come across, I always recommend you to refer to the dictionary later. In the class, in the exam, we have to use the contextual terminology because that's what it is. We don't carry dictionary in the exam hall, right? So use contextual techniques, but always refer to the multiple uses whenever you come across a new word, because that's how you could learn and improve yourself more. And when you're stuck with words, at least you're able to guess whether it's a positive word and negative word. Like for instance, transgress was a different kind of word. We could guess that and move on. So that's what you could do always. Connotation of words is also another technique that you could use whenever you're stuck. Okay, then have a good day and enjoy your lunch and get ready for next class tomorrow. All the best. If you have any more questions, you could shoot there. Anything that you missed in the first 2 6 passages, any other question that was not clear, type in here. Okay then guys, have a good day. Well, thank you, Prasoon. Well, this is the final time before the exams. So we've learned strategies all through your year, but now it's all about attacking. Competitive exams are always about attacking the exam. Hope you're learning it. Thank you. Have a good day, guys.